Taylor Swift was just on the New Heights podcast, but guess what? It was 2 hours long. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I created an app on Cloudflare Workers that saves you time. Here we can see it links to the New Heights podcast transcript and also the Travis Kelce GQ interview article. And I used AutoRAG, so you can RAG chat. You can chat with the podcast and the article. Let's ask it some questions. Let's say, did Travis think he could just walk into Arrowhead and meet Taylor? Travis mentions that he didn't even get a meet and greet, and he had to make a public declaration of his interest in her. And Taylor describes that as a wild romantic gesture. That did not actually catch that he thought that because he knew the elevator person at the NFL stadium where she was performing, that he could just get in. But he did not talk with Taylor's people. How was Taylor introduced on the pod? What achievements were mentioned? Because she has so many achievements. Energetic and aggressive intro, where the host Jason screamed out her achievements and accolades for 47 seconds. The intro mentioned that she is the most awarded artist in the history of the American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards, and the iHeartRadio Music Awards, a 14-time Grammy Award winner, the only artist in history to win Album of the Year 4 times, the performer of the most attended tour of all time, the Eras Tour, which spanned 149 shows across 51 cities and 5 continents. Wow. And then it also references, it cites where it got that information. Why orange? Let's ask. Why is her new album kind of orangey, orange themed? According to the document that it was trained on, Taylor Swift chose the color orange because it feels like kind of energetically how my life has felt, and her album, The Life of a Showgirl, is about what was going on behind the scenes in her inner life during the tour, which was exuberant and electric and vibrant. And she mentioned that she has always liked the color orange. So, fun chat app, and it uses Cloudflare durable objects to maintain state. So if I refresh the page, my chat is still there. Nice. So let's look at AutoRAG. I took the YouTube transcript and I used this tool, youtubetranscript.io, to get the text. And then I used Cloudflare browser rendering to scrape the Travis Kelce GQ article. And I took those 2 text files and I added them to Cloudflare R2 object storage. And there are zero-egress fees here. So we have 2 R2 objects in TaylorRAG articles. We have the podcast transcript, which is very long. I mean, it's 2 hours worth of audio of text because it's a transcript, and then the Travis GQ article. And we connected those R2 objects to Cloudflare AutoRAG. Now, AutoRAG is a new Cloudflare product. If you haven't heard of it yet, I don't blame you. But it makes it easy to automate and build Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG, pipelines. So we have this AutoRAG project that I created. I hooked it up to my 2 R2 objects. Those are the TaylorRAG articles source. And it created a Vectorize, the Cloudflare's vector database for me. And it took the text in the R2 objects, generated embeddings for them, of course, on the back end using Cloudflare Workers AI embeddings models, and stores automatically those embeddings from those articles, from those texts, into the Vectorize vector database. And it also adds in, there's my AI gateway. So now that we have this AutoRAG project, and I could have done this on my own as well, but it just made it easier to make this Retrieval Augmented Generation RAG app so that you can chat with the texts, so that you can chat with the GQ article and the New Heights podcast. So let's dig in some code. This is a Cloudflare Worker application. So we have our wrangler.jsonc file. We have our durable objects to maintain state with the chat. We have R2 buckets, so we can retrieve the text from the R2 buckets if we wanted to. We need our AI binding to use Workers AI models. In this case, I use the new OpenAI GPT OSS 120B model. Very fun. And you also need the AI binding to use AutoRAG, so you can chat with your AutoRAG RAG app with the R2 objects. I have browser to use Cloudflare browser rendering. I use this endpoint to use Cloudflare browser rendering to scrape the GQ article, hardcode that. So let's look at our index.ts, which is kind of like the entry point of our application. We have our bindings, chat state durable object, assets, browser, AI. Here is a function to scrape the GQ article, and this is called upon the scrape GQ endpoint. And we use Cloudflare browser rendering, which is like Puppeteer, to scrape that web page to get the text of that article. We have another helper function to fetch the content from a URL, format that content, create source page HTML. Here in async fetch, we have our API routing. We handle different endpoints, serve our static web file, handle the scraping and displaying of the GQ article, handle the transcript page. So if you go to this deployed worker / transcript, it displays the contents of the transcript of the podcast. Same with the article. If you go to /GQ article, it can handle chat routes here. We create and manage chat sessions here with Cloudflare durable objects. Now in client.tsx, we have our chat user interface. Overall, this is a pretty Taylor Swift themed application. We have orange gradients because of our new album. Also Cloudflare orange. Yay, orange. A lot of sparkles, some jersey numbers. We have our application style components, a lot of CSS and JavaScript. React hooks use state for messages, use effect for initialization. We have our chat functionality, so we can send messages, display responses, load states, also handle messages, like format the LLM response and the user input response. And also clear chat. Here in chat state, we have persistent chat sessions, so it remembers all their conversations. Message storage, keeps chat history across page refreshes. And we have state isolation, so each user gets their own chat instance. Here is also where we call env.ai.autorag, and this is our AutoRAG project, if you remember. And we perform AI search. So this is kind of like querying whatever the user types into the chat with AutoRAG. So you can chat with the R2 objects for the podcast, transcript, and the GQ article. And then we pass that AutoRAG response to Cloudflare Workers AI. We use OpenAI's new open source model, GPT OSS 120B, to kind of like format that in a friendly way. And that's where we use that system message. And you can customize that, play around with that. So I can't wait to see what you build with Cloudflare AutoRAG, Cloudflare Workers, GPT OSS 120B on Cloudflare Workers AI, browser rendering, and R2.